So I've been having some really deep and meaningful conversations about when you're dating and when you're in a relationship, the state of yourself. And by means of that, I mean, are you in love with the version of you who is dating or in love, or are you actually in love with that person? Because sometimes you can meet someone and you start dating and you're so like, this is brilliant, I love this, and you're so excited, and it could be a list of things that you want to do, places you want to go, or things that you've done before, but it's the best version of you. No if, buts, or maybe. You know, like the car breaks down. You don't care, I've got a date later, so what, it get fixed. Well, if you maybe weren't dating or weren't in love, car breaks down, you make it your be-all and end-all, and the whole world has fallen apart. You know, you have a different energy on things. Someone says something to you and you're like, oh, okay. Well, someone else says it and it's so personal, it's so offensive. You act differently, you're lighter, you're happier, you're glowing. So we've been talking and we're really getting to a place where it's like, I have noticed different people, depending on where they are with their spiritual journey or their self journey, because I don't know if spiritual journey is the right word, or where they just are with themselves, their perception of reality changes. Some people start dating, and as soon as they start dating, they change themselves to become a version of a person that the person they're dating will adore even more. And everything becomes a thing, like, oh my God, I haven't heard from that person. Oh my God, I haven't texted back. They're online searching, why haven't I heard from him, how to make him fall in love with me in a day, how this, how that. But that's all fear, because it's not come from a place of inspired action. It's come from a place of desperation, emotion. So I went to ChatGPT and I basically asked the question, do people fall in love with the state of themselves being in love, like that version of themselves, or are they falling in love with the person? And then I used some examples. For example, there's a TV show, Lucifer, and in one of the series, there's a character called Eve. And Eve was created for man, Adam, so that's her first love. And then she then had an affair with the devil, Lucifer. I'm going by the TV series before someone tells me a biblical error here. What she was saying afterwards is, I believe that I actually love the version of myself when I'm in love, but I don't know if I've actually been in love with any of these guys. And she said she needs to spend some time loving herself, being in love with herself, before she can now go and jump into another relationship with any other person, because when she is in a relationship with someone, she is obsessed in being the perfect person, doing what they want. So if they like football, she likes football. If they like candy, all of a sudden she likes candy. If they drink, she drinks. If they're vegan, she's vegan. You know, you just kind of like lose yourself and then you become a little bit offended, cheesed off, disrespected, because you're like, I've done all this and it's not getting reciprocated back. But again, she is not being her authentic self. She is running from a state of fear. So what she gets back is fear. So that's the question that I asked in a very long-winded way. But I got a reply back in a very clear way. So have a listen and tell me what you think.
This is actually one of the most important relationship questions there is, and almost nobody talks about it honestly. Most people think they're asking, do I love this person? But the deeper question is, what version of me comes alive around them? Because if you really look at it, a lot of what people call being in love is a state. You meet someone, suddenly you care about your body again, your skin, your hair, your clothes. You go to the gym, you take your vitamins, you walk differently, you laugh more, you're more open, more hopeful, more present. Life feels a bit magical again. Music sounds better. You're glowing, and you think this person is amazing. But very often, what you're actually in love with is your nervous system in activation, your heart in openness, your identity in expansion. The person is the trigger. They're not necessarily the source. That's why sometimes, if you're really honest, you realize If this exact same person was texting you every day but you felt flat, or if you met them when you were already full and happy and glowing, you might think, they're nice, but I'm not that into them. So what was the magic? The magic was the version of you that came online. This is also why silence hurts so much. When the messages stop, when there's a gap, when there's uncertainty, the glow doesn't just fade. The nervous system drops into fear. Not because the person is gone, but because the state is gone. And the mind starts telling stories. Rejection. Not chosen. Not important. Not enough. So the pain isn't actually about them. It's about losing access to that version of yourself. This is also why you can be crazy about someone who, if you describe them on paper, is actually pretty mediocre. They're not especially kind, not especially consistent, not especially deep, but they like you, or they half like you, or they're just unavailable enough to keep your system activated. And because they're the doorway to that glowing version of you, your mind makes them special. Another really important thing, in the beginning of almost every connection, you don't even see the person. You see your projection. You see possibility. You see who you could be together. You see the movie. You see the future version of you. That's not wrong. It's human. But it means you're not actually in love with them yet. You're in love with the state and the story. Real love is much quieter. Real love is, you like them on a boring Tuesday. You like how they talk to waiters. You like how they handle stress. You like who they are when they're not trying to impress you. You feel more yourself, not more anxious. Here's another big sign. If being with someone slowly makes you start adjusting yourself to keep them, that's not love. That's attachment. You stop doing the things you love. You start doing the things they love. You go to their gym, eat their food, watch their shows, see their friends, shape your schedule around them. At first, it feels like closeness. Then, slowly, your own center disappears. And then the anxiety begins, because your nervous system knows, if this person goes, I lose me. That's why the fear gets so big. It's not just losing them. It's losing the version of you that only exists around them. And this is the part most people miss. The healthiest relationships are not the ones that create your glow. They're the ones that meet you in your glow. The glow is supposed to be yours. Dating and love are meant to be a sharing of fullness, not a search for completion. When someone really fits, you don't feel addicted. You don't feel obsessed. You don't feel like you're waiting for your life to start when they text. You feel calm, safe, normal, a little bit boring compared to chaos. And that's actually a good sign. A lot of people confuse nervous system activation with love, but anxiety is not passion. Uncertainty is not chemistry. Obsession is not connection. So do we fall in love with people, or do we fall in love with versions of ourselves? Honestly, most of the time at first, we fall in love with who we become. Real love is what remains when you can already be that version of you without them. And here's the most empowering shift of all. Imagine being the woman who doesn't need a date to feel beautiful, doesn't need a text to feel chosen, doesn't need attention to feel alive. Then dating becomes fun, light, playful, optional. And from that place, you don't bond to potential. You don't bond to fantasy. You choose based on how someone actually shows up. And the irony is, that's when you become insanely attractive. Because you're no longer asking someone to give you a state. You're inviting them to share one. And that's where real love actually starts.
I completely understand the states. When you're in that state, you attract someone in that state. And from there, you go on to another place. That's a little bit like the saying, who was you when you met the person? Was you happy or was you sad? They say if you want to keep the job, the money, the person, any of the stuff, stay in the same state that you are every day. And that's how you keep the person. You don't start digging and becoming something else and worrying and stressing, because that's a different state, that's a different energy. The two don't exist. But I'm quite intrigued in the question of people. So some people will do affirmations, journaling, scripting, mirror work, so forth. Sorry, I talk really fast. And then I've got other friends who don't do any of those. And the friends who do nothing, they're just naturally confident, naturally go-getters. They're very disciplined, very structured. I tend to find as well they're very tidy. There's not much clutter in their houses. They're very yes and no. They get what they want. It might not be in every area of their life. It might be love is amazing like that, or it might be work is amazing like that. But in most areas, they're very concrete and confident and secure within themselves. They may use one of my subliminals to help them sleep or just background ambiance, whilst some of my other friends use the subliminal to change their life. You're using this as a tool to help you. And then I've got some friends who will do affirmations, repetition affirmations, but they're doing it so much that you can see it on their face, they're drained. And it's like, oh, just do it for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes while you're in the car, while you're walking the dog. Just do it. Do it when you're having fun. Hence why music makes you relax. Frequencies make you relax more. You know, that's why we put frequencies on the subliminals. And music, they all help you just drop your shoulders, relax more. It doesn't become a chore, a to-do. I find anything you do when you're having fun is 20,000 times more powerful than I need. Because that's a different energy and that's a fair energy. Anyway, gone way off track again. So I'd like to know, why do some people naturally succeed with doing tools or techniques while some people don't? And the consistency, like in a relationship where things are pushed away or pulled away, it becomes a bit of a roller coaster compared to an easy relationship, which is just flowing, free running, light.
Yes, this makes perfect sense. So the next layer of this question is really about this. Some people don't do any affirmations, don't journal, don't script, don't listen to subliminals. They're just confident. They look in the mirror, touch their hair, admire themselves, and they genuinely like what they see. They assume they're wanted. They assume things work out, and somehow they still get great results in dating and life. Then there are other people who do the inner work, mirror work, affirmations, scripting, journaling, meditations, subliminals, not from desperation, but because they enjoy it. It relaxes them, it centers them, it helps them stay in a good state. So the question becomes, what's the difference? The difference is not the technique. The difference is the state of being. Some people naturally live in a state of expectation. They don't need to repeat affirmations because their identity already assumes, I'm chosen, I'm attractive, things work out for me. Their nervous system is already there. Other people use tools like affirmations, scripting, subliminals, mirror work, not to force reality, but to train the nervous system into that state. So both people are doing the same thing energetically. One is doing it unconsciously. One is doing it consciously. And that's why subliminals can be nice. Sometimes you don't want to consciously repeat things. You just want to relax, listen to music, and let your system soak in a better story in the background. Now, here's where your dating question gets really interesting. You're saying, when you meet someone, you'll mention things like, I want to go to that restaurant. I want to go on that holiday. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then later they start saying, we should go to that restaurant. I should take you on that trip. And part of your mind goes, see, this is a sign. This is confirmation. This is alignment. This must mean they're the one. But the deeper question you're really asking is this some kind of manifestation or sign? Or is it just that as humans, we're constantly reflecting each other and influencing each other without realizing it? And the honest answer is, it's the second one. Human beings are suggestible. We mirror each other. We pick up each other's language, ideas, moods, desires. When you're in a light, open, attractive state, people naturally want to please you, impress you, move towards your world. So when someone starts repeating your ideas back to you, it doesn't necessarily mean fate. It means they're responding to your energy. They're trying to bond. They're trying to build connection. They're entering your frame. And yes, that can feel magical. And yes, it can be part of attraction, but it is not by itself proof of emotional depth, commitment, or long-term compatibility. This is a really important distinction because chemistry is easy to create. Shared reality is easy to create. Excitement is easy to create, especially in the early stages. Now to your bigger question. Is a relationship exciting because of the energy we're putting into it? And is that same reason why energy can fade, go up and down, turn into a roller coaster, or end up with ghosting and silence? Yes, exactly. In the beginning, both people are usually more present, more curious, more attentive, more open, more in their best behavior. So the energy is high, the dopamine is high, the story is high, the nervous systems are activated. But if one person starts getting anxious, over-investing, waiting, watching their phone, needing reassurance, and the other person starts pulling back, taking it for granted, losing curiosity, or just isn't that emotionally available, the energy field changes. Not because someone is bad, not because anyone did something wrong, but because the dynamic shifted. And when the dynamic shifts, the feeling shifts. This is why sometimes you can look back and think, how did this go from amazing to confusing? It's not random, it's nervous systems interacting. Here's another really important truth. A lot of people think they're being ghosted by the person, but what they're actually experiencing is the collapse of the shared fantasy field. In the beginning, there's possibility, projection, hope, curiosity, openness. Then reality starts to come in, or fear comes in, or avoidance comes in, or insecurity comes in. And the energy that was holding the connection up drops. And because most people were emotionally attached to the feeling state, not the actual person, the crash feels brutal. Which brings us back to your original, deepest question. Do we fall in love with people? Or do we fall in love with versions of ourselves and emotional states? Most of the time, at first, we fall in love with how we feel, who we become, what life feels like, the story, the activation. Real love is what remains after that settles. And here's the part that changes everything. When you become the person who can generate your own glow, your own confidence, your own happiness, your own sense of being chosen, then you stop getting addicted to beginnings. You stop getting destroyed by endings. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy. And you start choosing based on how someone shows up, how consistent they are, how emotionally available they are, how safe your body feels with them, not how exciting the first few weeks felt. And the irony is, just like you said, the people who don't even think about this stuff, who just assume they're wanted, who like themselves in the mirror, who expect good things, they often have the best dating experiences. Not because they're luckier, but because their identity is already in the state that others are trying to reach with techniques. So the real work is not, how do I manifest the person? It's, how do I stabilize the version of me that feels whole, chosen, relaxed, and secure? From there, relationships stop being roller coasters. They stop being addictive. They stop being confusing. And they start being normal, calm, real, and actually nourishing, which to a nervous system addicted to chaos can feel unfamiliar at first, but it's what real love actually feels like.
Isn't it just fascinating how you can see things from different perspectives? What's your thoughts on all of this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you feel that when you meet someone, you're the better version of yourself? Do you maintain that in your relationships? And just like I said, today we've been talking about love just because most of my request is for love stuff, but this is exactly the same for money, for your body, self, work, all areas of your life. It's definitely food for thought. Or is it thought for food? What's the saying? Okay.